For many gamers, it's the story that ropes them in. Some gamers only play games for their story. They want an interactive narrative that they can be a part of and be whisked away by. For this list, we have avoided the games that have more story than gameplay and instead focused on those with excellent stories that are also mechanically strong and well-designed experiences. These are the stories that have gripped us and won't let go. Pentiment. The brilliance of Pentiment is how well it grabs you with a story and time period that you wouldn't necessarily think lends itself well to gaming. For the most part, you play as Andreas, an artist who is working part-time at a Benedictine monastery as he owns his craft. He resides in this medieval town nearby, and you take control of his character just as a mysterious murder occurs. It's up to you to uncover who did it by talking to the various townspeople and monks. This sounds very cut and dry, but rest assured that Pentiment excels at two things. One, educating you in a highly entertaining way about some of the most mundane things about the Middle Ages, and two, creating characters and situations that you care about despite the centuries that separate you from their lifestyle. The Last of Us Part 2. Say what you will about the controversial nature of some of The Last of Us Part 2's plot points, you can't deny it tells a gripping story that grapples with the long-lasting consequences of revenge and how truly self-destructive it can be. Like its predecessor, The Last of Us Part 2 knows how to hit you in the feels, and its smartly realized cast of characters possess important and shifting perspectives throughout the game's runtime. It's also one of those rare video games that presses upon you a hefty amount of introspection as you come to terms with how your own preconceived notions of right and wrong can be turned on their heads. We could spend hours talking about Ellie and Abby's journeys through a recovering post-apocalyptic world filled with infected, but it's a story that can stand on its own 2 feet from start to finish. Baldur's Gate 3.
He's been cut to the hells and back.
2023 was a year of gaming to remember. Resident Evil 4's remake, Tears of the Kingdom, and Starfield all launched, so it truly says something that Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3 blew all of those other games out of the water. With its incredible attention to detail, branching storylines dependent on player-made choices, and fantastic voice acting, this RPG is a game for the ages. It's rare that you will find a title this massive in scope that contains such a well-crafted narrative despite its size. So, if you're looking for that next big world to get lost in, you can't go wrong with Baldur's Gate 3. Seriously, the only thing wrong with the game is you don't have enough time to play more of it. Soma.
Collapse imminent. Proceed to the emergency vessels.
It's frequently believed that horror games will go light when it comes to an interesting narrative. Intriguing premises are all the rage when it comes to horror titles, but it can be rare that a scary hook follows through with a superb narrative. Soma, made by the developers behind Amnesia: The Dark Descent, is a fantastic horror game that comes complete with one of the most philosophical stories in a video game yet. As you make your way through the leaking and creaking hallways of abandoned underwater facilities, you'll find yourself questioning what it means to be human and the value we place upon the concept of humanity. Horizon Forbidden West. After a story as fascinating as the first game and a shocking plot twist that needs to be experienced, how was a sequel to Aloy's adventure supposed to compare? Somehow, Horizon Forbidden West keeps the plot just as urgent and adds characters as strong as the ones in Horizon Zero Dawn. Better still, there was a feeling as Aloy went to another area that she'd be leaving her old friends and rivals for new ones. Not so. Conversely, the story is tough to follow for those who haven't played the first game owing to how well the cast is integrated from the first game to the next. The Wolf Among Us.
That all you got? Seemed to be enough.
Sometimes using established stories can limit a story. Fans often treat source material as sacred, not to be tampered with, but a bold developer can sometimes take a classic tale and treat it like a canvas to the delight and imagination of gamers. The spins placed on Little Red Riding Hood and the rest of the memorable cast done by Telltale Games make The Wolf Among Us something special. It's a short game with a lot of DLC after gaining a cult following with a story that keeps characters in the spotlight. Portal 2.
Quicker you'll get your $60. Care on the compensation vouchers.
Predicting that a sequel to the phenomenal Portal could live up to the expectations would have been a risky bet. Yet what fans got was a game that amplified the puzzles and logic of the first game and wrapped it up in a hilarious and engaging story. Portal 2 took the bold step of introducing new protagonists and antagonists, and it paid off in spades. The key to this success was never losing sight of Chell or GLaDOS for the first game. The story revealed in Portal 2 is a must-play experience for anyone calling themselves a gamer. Spiritfarer. Spiritfarer is an engaging game that is perfect for amateur to intermediate gamers. With management and platforming elements, it's impossible not to be charmed by this cute art that features main character Stella and her cat Daffodil solving the problems of adorable animals struggling to make sense of their life as they journey to the other side. But the game is far more than looking in death with a joyful lens. Many of the creatures are symbols of people we know in life that hit too close to home. We can never fully understand someone else's struggles and successes without walking in their shoes. Stella learns to walk in their shoes, and in doing so, realizes that she still has another journey to make in her own shoes. Half-Life 2. The concept of Half-Life appears rather mundane, at least, as far as gaming goes. After a catastrophic event unleashes otherworldly hostiles, protagonist Gordon Freeman uses weapons and puzzle-solving brilliance to survive. But if that were the extent of the story, it would never have received the player base that it did. Half-Life 2 explores all aspects of these events: the civilians in the area, Black Mesa, the military, the police, the scientists, and the enigmatic G-Man to show that this world is complex, terrifying, beautiful, and worth fighting for. Let's go Elysium. Story-driven games can fall into the trap of retelling a fairy tale. The hero is a knight in shining armor and the villain is a demon straight out of hell. Disco Elysium wins by exploring the gray areas of the world. Harry is a mix of good and bad, and it is up to the player to decide which of those he gravitates toward. The world around Harry is just as complex as the detective himself. Motivations are not singular or transparent. Gamers will come across villains that they sympathize with instead of monsters cackling from the shadows. The side characters are all brilliant, and none of them are entirely good or bad. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Naughty Dog has come an awfully long way since the days of Crash Bandicoot. Its games have always been good, but through the Uncharted series, the developer helped to pioneer a movement that led to the rise in popularity of narrative-driven video games. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is not only a cinematic masterpiece, but also serves as a fitting end to one of gaming's very best heroes. Each of Nathan Drake's 4 fantastic outings features wonderful storytelling, but it's his last that truly highlights his personal growth, while also providing a bit more insight into his past and his relationships with those closest to him. Drake must contend with his past as a mass murderer and reconcile it with non-lethal options he might have had while still forgiving himself. Life is Strange 2.
The trails are insane.
The episodic game of Life is Strange 2 might not be filled to the brim with action, but it's an incredible work of art and storytelling nonetheless. The game focuses on the choices the player makes, which will ultimately determine the outcome at the end. After a misunderstanding with the police and a strange explosion, 2 brothers Daniel and Sean are forced to flee as fugitives. During their hunt, Daniel discovers that he has a special ability he can use the power of his mind to move objects. Puzzle solving and dialogue choices aside, the characters alone and their touching bond are what make this game so good story-wise. God of War Ragnarok.
We've got to clear out all these undead bastards.
The risk of being a sequel to an ever-popular game is letting the fan base down. The risk of this was all the greater when even the title God of War Ragnarok was mentioned. The concept of Ragnarok, an unavoidable death of the known pantheon, has been overplayed and butchered across multiple gaming and entertainment mediums. It turns out that introducing a new well-designed cast of characters and showing their admirable fight against fate was exactly what the franchise needed. The story reaches miserable lows and soaring highs that will make gamers both cry and celebrate as they complete the journey to the moon. Even by today's standards, To the Moon is a relatively short game, but it more than makes up for this with its fantastic story. You'll be placed in the shoes of a pair of doctors as they travel through the memories of one of their dying patients to fulfill his final request. It's full of touching moments and is a must-play for fans of narrative-driven titles. The game was built using RPG Maker and features an art style reminiscent of some of the best role-playing games of the 90s. Granted, the gameplay does leave a little to be desired, but the story is expertly written and is perfectly complemented by Can R, Gao's hauntingly beautiful soundtrack. Mobile RPG lovers will adore this title. Alright, this is the end of our list. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then make sure hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Also tell me if you have any recommendations that should be on this list in the comments below. Thanks for watching.